gonna start sharing my screen. Okay, so can you give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Thank you. All right. So welcome everyone to another edition of Launchpad Office Hours. Today is 22nd of November, 2022. Since last week, we've had quite a few updates, so we'll go through all of them as always. So we'll start with updates on Launchpad Development. Then we will demo the GraphStack Ethereum Girly. Now, initially, we were planning to demo the GraphStack Arbitrum Girly, but Arbitrum Girly is no longer supported by Arbitrum, and Arbitrum Sepolia. We can't demo that because we're waiting for the newest version of Indexer Agent to support the Sepolia chain as part of its release. So we are just gonna show you the graph stack for Ethereum Girly, and that will be very similar to Arbitrum Sepolia, which you can do yourself from here on. And then we'll have time for open discussion. So, starting with updates on the development activity. So we have had new stable releases. We have updated Aragon. We have new version of Launchpad Charts Lighthouse. Be careful, this includes some breaking changes. So it adds quick support, and it now uses 2 node ports instead of 1, which is what Lighthouse needs. And Arbitrum Nitro and Arbitrum Classic also include breaking changes. This is so that they can work with our scaling interface on namespaces, and you will need to update if you already deployed Arbitrum Nitro and Classic in your stack. You will need to update those config keys. We've also deprecated Avalanche out of our Launchpad charts and removed it from Launchpad namespaces because we don't run it internally, which means it's hard for us to support it and keep up with changes. On the Launchpad namespace side, we have released Gnosis, which uses Aragon and Lighthouse. It supports the CADO and mainnet networks, so both testnet and mainnet. We have released Arbitrum 1 namespaces that support mainnet, Sepolia, and Girly, Girly for the time being. And we have released stable updated versions of storage, monitoring, Ethereum, and Ingress as well. On Launchpad Starter, we have updated tasks to clean Helm file cache every 5 minutes. And I'm actually gonna take a second to show you what that means. So if you go to Launchpad Starter, so Launchpad Starter, we go to releases. So before, when you would run task releases apply, for example, it would only run Helm file apply. But when it runs Helm file apply, it doesn't check upstream. So now we have created a script that every 5 minutes checks whether you've updated with upstream to avoid situations in which, even though you're pointing to the latest stable release of something, because you haven't manually run the Helm file cleanup cache, you are actually not following the latest Launchpad namespaces. And this has come to our attention because Vince, you had those issues with Kubernetes stack. where you needed those specific Helm flags, and those were already included in our Launchpad namespaces as default. So I think what would have happened was that there was no manual Helm file cleanup cache run. So now every time you run any of the apply tasks, this script will check when was the last time you cleaned up cache, and if it's more than 5 minutes, then it will clean it again for you. Okay, so hopefully that will make life easier for everyone. Then on the upstream changes, there's a new version of Helm, version 01580, which introduces support for remote URLs in value files, so that now you can have your value files can be wherever you want them to be. They don't have to be in the same repository as your Helm file. And finally, in terms of issues, we have moved some of our development issues into the public repos, so Launchpad charts and Launchpad namespaces, and we'd like to encourage everyone who comes across any issues related to these repos to please open an issue so that we can address them and keep on improving the stack. All right. Quickly going through. Last week, one of the things we did last week was talk about Kubernetes ingress and quickly demo it and stuff like that. So I left the diagram here, but I won't go through it again. But just a reminder for today's session in terms of demoing GraphQL, we still have some prerequisites. So we still need a cluster. I've already created a cluster using our kubeadmin guide from the docs, and you still need a domain with access to DNS settings to use ingress. So again, I have an A record that points to a public IP in our Cloudflare. And then we also need some extra stuff for GraphQL. So you need an indexer address. You need a working RPC endpoint for Ethereum Girly. Now, our Launchpad stack comes with Ethereum, and you can install whatever flavor you want. But for the purposes of this demo, we won't be showing that because it takes a long time for the chains to sync up to head, and it just won't be an accurate representation. So instead, what we're doing is we created a brand new cluster where we will install the base layer together with the GraphQL release stack, but our GraphQL release stack will point to one of our internal Ethereum Girly RPC. And then an additional thing that you will need for GraphQL to run is you need a mnemonic for the indexer, and I have added here the command on how to seal that secret, that mnemonic for the GraphQL with the namespace, secret, and so on. And it will be very clear once I show the code. Okay, so let's go into demo mode. And yeah, please let me know if you have any questions as we go through and stuff like that. All right, so first things first, I want to start from Launchpad Starter from scratch. So I'm just gonna clone this. So you can see I'm running against the cluster, one node cluster that was created 132 minutes ago. So I've cloned Launchpad Starter, and I think there's a couple more steps here, so I'm just gonna quickly check the quick start. Yeah, so clone. I should have cloned it like this, but okay. We'll remove the origin so that okay. So as always, the Launchpad starter comes with a sample helm file.yaml, and with the latest changes, we have those helm file cleanup cache set up, and so on. Now, I would normally copy this into a helm file.yaml, but for our purposes, I've already pre-created a helm file.yaml with additional config. Just give me 1 second, which I will copy that instead. Okay, so okay. For all intents and purposes, this helm file.yaml is the same as this, with a few exceptions, which are bits of commented code that I will go through as we apply it, explain everything how it goes. So normally you start by running at the base layer. So task releases apply base. As you can see, first thing it does now is clean up cache directory. And you see a repeat of that because apply base actually runs apply under the hood. Maybe we can actually remove it from apply base, since it will always run because of apply. And it starts by installing the storage namespace. The storage namespace goes with OpenEBS raw file, local PV, and a storage class associated with it. I won't go into too much detail here because you should have seen that. Let me see what happened here. Okay, this hasn't been changed, so it should just work. Okay, not sure what happened there, but it moved on. Going to monitoring. We've also updated the monitoring namespace. Before there was an issue with the storage class it was picking up by default. So Loki distributed ingester was not set up with the storage class. So if you didn't have any default storage class in your cluster, it will stay in pending mode. So we fixed that. Carlos is saying that our previous error was because the storage class already existed in the cluster, because I did a quick dry run before this and I must have missed deleting the storage class. I thought I deleted all resources, but I went with the approach of deleting namespaces, which cleans any resources that are namespace constrained, which makes sense. And we can see what the cluster is doing in the meantime while it's doing all of this. So it's initializing a lot of stuff. But yeah, basically what I was saying before is if you just run the monitoring namespace without any updates to storage class or anything like that, and you don't have a storage class set by default in your cluster, this specific pod would stay in pending for a long time. So we have updated that. We have the OpenEBS stuff. And I think we're just about to install, yes, Ingress. Now, for Ingress, for the time being, I have installed it how it comes, which means it doesn't have the setup that it needs to create Ingress. So for it to work, we'd have to comment this out and update the external IP to point to public endpoint of the Kubernetes node, or in our case, just because it's one cluster node, just the external IP of the node, which I'll do in a minute. We spoke in a lot of detail last week about this, but yeah, still worth showing the changes that I made to what comes by default. Installing Postgres operator, which comes with the base layer. It is specifically needed for the graph stack, for the graph curly stack, to create the graph database, which again will go into more detail. Seal secrets so that we can seal secrets. All right, so that's the apply base. Now I'm gonna go through making this change on Ingress. And I'm gonna do this with apply Ingress only so that it doesn't ask me if I'm okay for changes for every single namespace, even though there hasn't been a diff yet. All right, so we can see that the change is adding the external IP to the service and using host network into the daemon set. So yes, we do want to do that. Again, the prerequisite for this to work was to create an A record in our DNS to point to that external IP. While that is applying, our next thing will be, so as I said, one of the prerequisites was to add that, to run this, to add your mnemonic. Um, because I deleted the sealed secret namespace and it was created again, I have to also rerun that. So I'm just gonna do that, but I'm just gonna hide what I'm doing so you don't see that. Just give me 1 second. Basically, I don't want you to see the mnemonic, that's all. All right, I'm back and I copied my mnemonic. I'm gonna replace it here in this secret. This is because, yeah, again, still secret controller is namespace specific and cluster specific. Okay, I've done this as a prep step, but I haven't yet updated this. So if I run this, it's missing a lot of stuff by default. So the graph namespace. So I'm gonna uncomment all of this and just quickly go through some of it. So first is on the graph node itself, we're telling it mainnet enable is true. On the indexer default, I'm using the Ethereum RPC. This is it curly JSON RPC, our internal namespace, and our internal endpoint. And I will be changing the username and password. I have an indexer address that corresponds with the the seed phrase that I've just encrypted here, and I'm giving it a public indexer URL, which actually, for this to work, for this public indexer URL to work, I will also need to create an ingress resource. Again, this is something that we did last week, but this is a graph curly ingress resource specifically for graph curly, pointing at the graph network indexer service with this host that matches the host here. This is the secret, and then values for the graph database. So Postgres primary subgraph data and Postgres indexer data. One thing that's important here is that you need to, again, specify a storage class if your cluster doesn't have a storage class by default. Otherwise, these workloads will be stuck in pending mode. And only for the purposes of this demo, I have decreased the size quite a bit because the default is 200 gigabytes. And same with indexer metadata, need to specify the storage class, and same with subgraph radio. All right, so task releases apply graph curly. See that this is not okay. Releases. and it tells you all of the releases that will apply. So the database network indexer that contains indexer service and agent, the graph node, the secret operator mnemonic, graph toolbox, which is what we'll use to query the to run like indexer queries, and subgraph radial. All right, they are coming up. Now I do have an error on the indexer agent, and that is because I didn't update that username and password. It's not. Failed to fetch chain ID. No, so yeah, 401. I think it's an authentication error. So I will edit, so kubectl, edit the stateful set, which is graph network indexer agent in graph curly namespace. And I will quickly update this. I can do it in code as well, but all right. Let's see if that worked. I'm gonna force delete this so that it doesn't work for the crash loop back off and all of that. And it's running now. Okay. I think it overall looks happy. Now, there's two more things. The primary subgraph data is failing. Let's see why it's failing. Did not have enough free storage. If I go to the stateful set to see the definition of it, to see where we went wrong, let's see, volume claim. Yes, okay, so it didn't update the, it's still asking, expecting the 500 gigabytes, which I don't have for this node. So I'm gonna quickly update that in the code. I think here is not size, I think it is this. This is here. And I'm just gonna quickly double check. With one of this comes from the Postgres operator. So let's see if it applies. So task releases again, graph curly. I save. Okay. So that is wrong. Let me have a look at. Yes, Launchpad namespace.
Also, The indentation wasn't right yet either.
Okay, yes. So it's not at the same level as volume, right? This is what you mean, yeah?
Yeah, between request and storage, before it was wrong. Now it fixed itself.
Okay. But yeah, I think also it's not under volume, it's under resources. Nope. So here in primary subgraph, it was size. We specified the size, so maybe it was right before. Um, so it didn't pick up that change. I wonder if it's a immutable field. Do you know, Carlos? Like,
I think it will still show, but then it will fail at trying to change it.
so, okay, so we have Postgres parameters, volume. It clearly picks up the storage class. If I look at what we set, the volume size is at the same, yeah, it's at the same level of storage class. So then it is a special kind of resource. It's a Postgres SQL. So I think I might just delete the PVCs, and then try again to see if it picks it up. So cubes. Let's do this. Let's do it in K9s. Okay, so Control D, and then I want to see PVCs. This is still pending. I'm gonna delete this as well. And it created one straight away. Um, okay, that makes sense. It's not here because it never created the PV because it didn't have enough space. But PVC is still here and it still creates it, even though the resource is not there anymore. That's interesting. Okay, what I will do instead is if I do Helm list to see all of the resources in all of the releases in all of the namespaces, what I will do is delete this release. Okay. Now let's see PVCs. Now I should be able to delete this. Okay, and I will also, oh, that's subgraph radio, that's fine. Okay, that's interesting. I'm gonna do kubectl, delete PVC. And I'm just gonna, oh, it's not there anymore. Interesting. Okay, cool. Leave it for now, rerun. This should recreate the whole release that is missing now, and hopefully pick up that PVC change. These demos are always nerve-wracking. All right, yeah, it sees that this needs an update, so let's do that. Let's watch pods again. Okay, container creating, it's running. And what did we do before? And let's see here again. Volume claim. Okay, well, doesn't have all of the details because it's the pod, so we'll do stateful set again. Volume claim. Okay, still didn't pick up, but yeah, doesn't pick it up. Okay. I will try to edit it here. So and figure it out later so that we don't waste time. Right. Volume claim template. Okay, that is forbidden. Cool. Mutable field. All right, let's have a look at Postgres operator. definition. So let's see what we said. We said the name and then the spec PostgreSQL. Okay, I will search by storage class. It's the operator config. Yes, initialize these. Okay, so I have storage class and size of type string. So is it that I didn't set it as a string? Because that would be silly. Um, it's not set as a string here either. So I will still have to delete the um, stateful set because it's immutable, but I want to see if it picks up the change really quick. It does not. Cool. Any ideas, Carlos?
Can you show me the resource again that you have on your own file?
Yes. So I have the Postgres parameters, which have all been picked up. Clearly, the
Yes.
OpenABS REST Sorry.
And just a second. Like, that's supposed to create a PostgreSQL CRD, and I don't think you have deleted that one, so it hasn't changed. But the operator builds you the stateful set based on the PostgreSQL object that you should have. And if that one doesn't change, then it's going to keep trying to create the same stateful set.
I did change it once, but maybe I didn't do it in the right place. Oh, I just deleted the chart, which is why it would have deleted that resource as well. Okay.
I'm not sure it would.
Well, it's not here, right? See, it's not here though. And if I do post SQL instead of with an S, it's also not here. And now it's created it. And still shows
Still
up.
says 500 gigabytes here.
So maybe if this is what I added. So if I edit, so if I
You know
edit,
what? Try something. Delete it again, like uninstall it again, and use that flag to not merge values to this release. To
okay,
just set up yours. That flag, like on the helm, on the Helm file.
that will make sense. So let me see if I have it here at all. Merge values through helm default. Would this go under somewhere here, or would this go?
Like on top of spec, just inside the release. So no, not there. Go to the database
Right,
release.
here, right.
Like yeah.
And I'm gonna say merge values through, yeah.
False.
Okay.
No, we want false. True is the default.
Oh, through, yeah, because it merges all of them. Missing a resource. Database resource injector patched. So maybe it's not here. If I look at OpenEBS, for example, no, it's at the same level of values.
No, I think it's your resource that you're injecting is not complete. It's missing like a kind, an object type, an API. It should be like a full resource, right?
Right. Oh, yes, because it's not merging it. You're completely right. So I need to go here, and I'm just gonna, this is the subgraph data. So basically I'll copy this and add my changes on top. All right, so let me indent it properly. Okay, and what did we add? The parameters. There are no parameters here, so I can just do this. And I will delete this because it is later on. Actually, the parameters are here. All right.
That volume section shouldn't be there as well. Go back
I deleted
like
it.
that.
See, it's not here anymore.
That's no, but it doesn't go under Patroni. Like it's at the wrong place.
Yes.
I'm not sure that's where it was supposed to go.
So it is at the same level as PostgreSQL. Just, okay, so PostgreSQL parameters, there you go. Okay.
It's still gonna error out on the second one, but I think you can take it out. The second database is also not complete. You know, you
Okay.
have two
Yes.
there.
You're right, because we disabled merge values for both of them. I apologize. Uh, we are running overtime. Is everyone okay to stay a bit longer? Okay. Uh, spec volume required value. Still wrong? It's one up. Okay. Yay! You can see it here. Okay, so hopefully this will work for that specific one, and in the meantime while this is thinking about it, I'm just gonna basically do the same for this. Okay, and the only thing that we are changing here, okay, that's already changed, so it should work. uh, it's been created, and let's see if we have, it's still pending. Okay, so
Just delete the stateful set now, I think, or something like that, because the operator won't be able to update the stateful set. But it should have been deleted. I'm not sure. See how its age, if it was deleted or not. It should have been.
I don't think it was, because we did a few indentation issues. So delete the release, we'll reapply. Um, yeah, okay, so they're not there now. What about stateful sets? Okay, you're right, that didn't delete. So it doesn't delete the stateful sets left behind. Okay. So now it should create both PostgreSQL resources and the stateful set associated with them. Okay. Hey, this is a stateful set and it created one. Indexer metadata. Where's the other one? This is at 13 and this is at also 13. Indexer metadata. Okay, at this point I would check for the any errors in the Postgres operator. Okay, so it says this was for a minute ago. It created found pod, found PVC, but no subgraph. Primary subgraph data. Actually, this is the name. Okay, no event. It has the right size, so we have at least that. But the Postgres operator, so its status is empty. It is 2 minutes old. And it didn't create a stateful set for it. So I'm gonna try to delete it one more time.
Just try to restart the operator before maybe that works and it's quicker. And if it doesn't, then you can delete it. As it finished processing the other one, maybe it processed them sequentially. Is the other database already provisioned and running?
It is this provision and running. This is still pending. Okay, let's look again at the Postgres QL. Okay, so I wonder if it's too resource heavy. Let's see what the pod says this time, because it's created it. Let's describe it. Let's take this away, and it says, nope, did not have enough free storage. So still complaining about storage. PVC, still pending. If we describe this, it is OpenEBS.
Can you check the size of that PVC?
You mean in the Postgres or?
No, the PVC directly should have a size. If you edit it, it should have a size, right? Oh, it's not saying anything in capacity. I
It's
thought
not.
it should.
If I do YAML to describe it, 75. Volume mode file system, 75 gigabytes. Let's check the node actually, just in case all of the other things used the node. Let's see, node, YAML. Actually, be at the end. No, it's, I think it's describe. Disk pressure. It doesn't say, but maybe if I just decrease that number. Let's give it 20. This is fun, but not what we were meant to be at. Okay. All right. Let's do pods first. This will probably still actually show us 75. It's not specified on the pod, it's specified on the stateful set. Okay. Volume clamp 10.75. Okay, so I would need to delete the PostgreSQL resource, delete the STS, and reapply. So the one was the subgraph data, right? Yes. PostgreSQL. Delete this. Okay. Then STS. Delete this. Do I need to delete the PVC? And please do ask any questions if you have any, because this wasn't the plan of what we're supposed to cover. Okay, and now if I reapply and then probably restart the Postgres operator to force it to pick up changes, hopefully that would work. All right, so I think this is one of the issues with running operators in Kubernetes. It can end up being quite complicated with all of the dependencies. Okay, so we can see that it's 20 gigabytes. It is not shown as creating, so maybe it's the Postgres operator queuing them. Let's see what's happening here. Yeah, this is running, the other one isn't. I'm gonna force this one more time. Okay, so it picked it up. Hey, look at that. It's finally running. Okay, so now both databases are running. We will have to separately figure out how to improve that definition for the Postgres databases so that it's easier to make those kind of volume changes. I think the reason why this would be running would be because the expected database connection, which wasn't here until now. So I'm just gonna restart them to force them to reconnect. Okay. Could not detect network. Okay, I think because it's almost half past, I will stop here. We will have to do a rerun of this, whether it's something that we record or we do next session. We will have to figure out, just figure out what went wrong and yeah, reassess. This stack has been working properly for us. I think it just has been a matter of a few little details that has been good to go through. Does anyone have questions or comments or any additions before we stop the session? Yes, this is most Kubernetes resources are not that hard to deal with. This comes from using CRDs, which in this we will be depending on a bunch of operators that use CRDs, but these things become easier, and we'll be here to support people
Mm. And
when using this.
that network error is because you had changed manually on the stateful set the password and username on the URL, but not on the Elm file. So when you deleted the resource and reapplied, you lost that config.
I didn't. I only deleted the graph database. I will double check.
Just check.
Mm-hmm.
I think at one point you deleted everything and reapplied.
Okay, let's see. No, it is the right username and password.
No, the pod still has the wrong one. So the pod needs to be deleted maybe.
No, this is the pod.
Well, that's used in two. There's two stateful sets, right? You have agent and indexer service.
Yes, you're right. Okay, I will update that. Okay. In that case, I should be able, if this works, I should be able to actually show how to use the graph toolbox. Yes, it needs to change at stateful set level. And yes, as Pili mentioned, please do send us suggestions of what you'd like to see more of. What have we been covering that has been really useful, and what can we do more of? And yeah, just any suggestions for improvement, they would be very useful. All right. Just gonna do YAML again to see if that. Okay. Go to pods. It is pending.
Try to delete yes that one. It's maybe restart start.
There's one that's running. Running with the right thing. Running. Okay, so now the next step would be to, okay, so let's do this kubectl get pods. So the next step is we have this toolbox. So I'm gonna do a kubectl exec into this toolbox using bash, and I will have indexer stack installed there, so I should be able to run things like, if I do graph indexer, help, let's do help. So yeah, so this is installed in this graph toolbox, plus a few other handy tools. So now if I do graph indexer status, hopefully it gives us the status of our indexer with network, and this is it curly, although it might be Ethereum girly. Maybe just girly. Okay, so we have connected to the indexer that comes from that Ethereum RPC net that checks for allocations, and we are running, and let's see if we go to this ingress if that has worked, because we haven't checked that yet. This so kubectl get ingress. Let's do it. Let me see if I actually applied it. Yes, I should have applied it. So ingress. Okay, yes. So actually I haven't applied it because, why did I apply it? Because it's in the monitoring namespace and it shouldn't be. It should be in graph curly. So when I applied the graph curly namespace, it didn't pick it up because it didn't exist. So now let me just see here if it says namespace anywhere else. No, it's just here. So now if I rerun this, it should just pick up the ingress resource. Okay, this is for the graph curly stack, and now it tries to create the ingress. Okay, it's here, and sure it has. All right, I will stop here. I could go into troubleshooting this. I'm sure it's something really small. We showed how this works last week, so this is not as important as the rest of the stack of seeing how to set up the graph stack. But yeah, I will stop here at this time. Um, Thank you everyone for joining, and I'll wait a few more minutes if there's any more comments or suggestions. But I think Pili, we can stop.